Welcome to the Nightly Rant
with
your
hosts,
Mike.
and Torya.
This is the show where we examine society from a sarcastic point of view.
If you like insane conversations, this is definitely the show for you.
Let's get into today's topic. YPN people, I don't know about you, but I love helping out a friend. That's why I want to shout out my friend Brian Little and his podcast, Your Favorite Blockhead. This is the only show that manages to weave together peanuts and MMA into one heck of an amazing podcast. You can find Your Favorite Blockhead wherever your favorite podcasts reside and at yourfavoriteblockhead.com. Do me a huge favor and listen to Brian's show. You'll be entertained and you'll help out a friend. Now, as I said, let's get into today's topic.
So it's kind of a half victory, half defeat. The poor park. It has been ravaged.
I don't call them destroying the beautiful green space a victory at all ever, even 1%. It still upsets me that they removed part of our grass. For the dumbest reason I've ever heard in my life. Yes, we're going to overwater this grass to the point where it's a squishy fucking ocean 6 days a week.
Yeah, when you're not even supposed to be watering that often.
But hold me back. The water bill is too high. The solution is clearly to remove the grass, not to water it properly like a reasonable human being. No, the solution is to remove the grass.
Oh, and then when you put in,
Eye roll.
when you put the dirt in, that's going to take the place of the grass. You add some deserty type plants, and then you don't put just one irrigation dripper. You put 2 per flank.
Yeah, it's kind of unnecessary.
So
They're just the dumbest people I've ever experienced.
yeah, it's expensive this way, and it's frustrating, but at least, like I said, the original plan was to just desertscape the entire thing. So
And then we would absolutely never be living in this community long term.
no, you're right.
Because I couldn't live somewhere where the HOA has their head that far up their ass.
Right. Now, speaking of heads up asses or asses, I have one
You are.
asshole.
Yes.
You have an
The
Am I
answer
the
is
asshole
yes.
tonight for us? So
The answer to your question is yes.
okay, well, the answer to your question is also yes.
Am I the asshole for telling my
Yes.
mom to take back the gift she got me? That's the title.
I the asshole for telling my mom to take back the gift she got me. Uh-oh, we have a problem. All right, go ahead.
From the title, who do you think is the asshole? Her or her mom?
Her.
I, 23 female, gave a baby up for adoption when I was 18. It's an open adoption, so I know the parents and they know me. The child, who's now 5 years old, knows me too. They just don't know that I'm their biological parent. I didn't realize I was pregnant until I was too far along to have any other options. I was going through a lot emotionally at the time, trying to cope with what made the pregnancy happen, not something I said yes to. My parents, mostly my mom, kept pushing me to raise the child. Obviously, I did not. My mom has had a hard time accepting that I do not think of myself as this child's mother in any capacity. They have a mom, a good one who loves them more than anything in the universe, and she's an incredible woman who deserves all the credit for how great of a person they're turning out to be. I am not their mom. I will never be their mom. I do not want to be their mom. My brother, 25 male, just had a baby with his fiancée, and for Christmas my mom got her a necklace with her and the baby's birthstone on it. I wasn't at the Christmas celebration my family had since I was working that day, so my mom said she'd just swing by with the gift she got me and I could hand off the gift I got her. Well, she showed up today, and when I opened the box, I saw that it was a necklace with my birthstone and the birthstone of the child I put up for adoption. I asked her why she got it for me, and she said that she had been given a similar necklace when she became a mom, and she wanted to do the same for me and my brother's fiancé. I told her that I wasn't a mom, and that I wouldn't be wearing the necklace. She told me that the point of her getting it was so that I would wear it, and I said, that's too bad. Take it back. She took the necklace and left, but now she's incredibly upset with me. She thinks I'm being ungrateful and disrespectful for rejecting a gift. I vented to my brother about it, and he said I probably should have just said thanks and never let the thing see the light of day again, but he did think that her mom is overstepping the clear boundary that I've set about this. I still feel bad. I know that she's probably just trying to handle the situation in her own way. and I'm trying to handle it in mine, but I don't know if saying that's too bad, take it back was a little too harsh or not.
I would say that ultimately this ends up in a similar but different place than what we talked about just from the title. I think they're both the assholes here because I think that the mom knew what the boundaries were, and she, regardless of what her intentions were, okay? Like there's a saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, it's true. Like you know, the worst decisions in the world had good intention behind it. They were still the worst decisions. So that's one thing. Then I think that the lady's the asshole because the way she handled it, like she was so fucking blunt. She could have said, hey, this makes me uncomfortable. And remember, we had a boundary and remind her of it. But you just like dropped it on her. Like, you know, you're a fucking idiot for doing what you did. Take it back. That's just rude. So I think they're both assholes. That's my opinion. What about you?
So I think the mom is definitely an asshole. Okay? Definitely. 100%. No argument about it. The mom is an asshole. But I think more information is needed on whether or not the woman is an asshole. I think if she set the boundary once 5 years ago with her mother and never brought it up again, 100% she's the asshole.
See what happens here? You always do this.
What?
I am so cut and dry about things like this that I just see it and I go, okay, they would never hold back facts. They would just tell me everything. They wouldn't hold back. As long as it was relevant, they would tell me. You, and I agree with you on this, so don't give me that look. She's giving me this look like, why are you bringing this up? You
No, I know why you're bringing it
come up with these things where I just kind of go, you know, I didn't think about that. That could happen. And if that happens, that would be why you wouldn't have made the decision
right
5 years ago. You didn't have the knowledge. So you were actually an extremely good person. Here's why. Once the truth came out and you knew what the truth was, you shifted your decision.
So there's the two very distinct options, like I mentioned before you went on your tirade. There's the option that she set the boundary once 5 years ago and then has never said a thing again about it, and therefore she is definitely the asshole. Like a kind reminder would have been plenty. There's the other option where her mom pushes all the time and she's constantly telling her mother that she's not this child's mom, etc. At which point, I don't think she's the asshole at all.
Okay, and that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
In your way of thinking...
Well, you didn't let me spit out my second option,
but in your way of thinking, it's either she... Well, I kind of see...
I just gave you the polar ends. Definitely not an asshole. Definitely an asshole. There's plenty of gray in the middle where she can be an asshole, kind of an asshole, maybe a little bit of an asshole.
But I
you know
don't
what I mean?
see... But you kind of see it as kind of an either-or situation, and I don't really see it that way.
Well, either she's an asshole or she's not. It's kind of an
either-or situation. That part, yes, but you were like... There was a situation where you were like, well,
I told you
if she's this, then she's this, and
just
she's
said
this. All right, well,
so there's
that's the part I don't agree
varying
with.
degrees of gray in the middle. I just gave you the extreme ends of the spectrum.
Interesting.
Right. Where there's no argument whether she's an asshole or not an asshole at those points. There's an argument the rest of the way.
So I don't know. I think they're both assholes, and I think you kind of agree with me, but you think you need more information. And I assume...
From the information provided, they're both assholes, but...
I assume that they would provide us with any relevant information that was available. So
they went into a lot of detail, including the fact that they were sexually assaulted to create the offspring in question.
Well, yeah.
So if they constantly nagged their mother, then they might have included that. I think it's safe to assume.
Yeah.
So I'm with you.
That's why
with the information provided, they're both assholes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just they're... I think one thing that people have to realize is I think it's what gets people upset about the woke folk, as I call them, It's my way or the highway kind of mentality.
Right.
And you can't be that way because you and I are extremely alike. We always joke about we're of course we do. We're the
Right.
same person. Of course we think that we're the same person. But there are some critical areas where we're extremely not alike.
Well,
And so you can't just assume someone's going to think this way or that way about something. You have to actually open your mouth and ask them this. And people don't do that. They assume. And then it's a lot of times it's assumed you believe that because they believe it. And you don't dare go against what they believe. And that's just BS, man. Like, that's what screwed up society is when we started doing that stuff. But it relates back to this whole thing because you get to see whatever situation the way you get to see it, and I get to see it my way. There might be some overlap. There might not be, but it doesn't matter. We can't force each other to think a certain way.
I don't think we've ever completely disagreed on one of these Am I the Assholes. I think we've had little bits of disagreement like today where I'm just simply pointing
agreed.
at another option.
No, you're right. I don't think we have. I was actually sitting here thinking about that. Like, would I be able to come up with something where I could point to, oh, well, we disagree?
We've never completely 100% been opposite on these.
No, but I think that's part of the fact that we are very much alike in the way we think about things. We've always said this too. Our conclusions tend to be the same. It's the way we come at the conclusion
even in
that
this situation.
changes. Yeah.
Like, you didn't even take the time to consider that there might be might be a universe where the daughter's not the asshole.
But see, the reason I didn't take the time to consider that is that because to me, they would have presented us with all of the relevant data. And based off of the data they provided, they're both assholes, period. So I had no reason to consider there was any other possibility because it wasn't presented.
Right.
But I mean, I think that's part of the problem. I agree with what you're saying. There can be other possibilities, but part of the problem with thinking that way is it's really the onus should be on the person communicating to be as clear as fucking possible.
Well,
and in this case, they're not being as clear as fucking possible if we have to have a discussion about whether it is or is not a something.
Guess what? This is an active I'm the Asshole posted in the last 24 hours, which means it's still in question asking time. I asked the question. Is this a boundary that you remind your mother of all the time? Maybe they just simply didn't include the information. Really, it still could go either way. So I asked the question.
You're not wrong, but I'm still saying that it's, if you're like passing judgment on this for like a legal case or something, it's on them to show the issue.
Yeah.
It's not on you to out yourself.
Yeah. I also think it's a sensitive subject. Giving a baby up for adoption.
Well, which is why the mama should never have crossed the boundary. And like I said, what a lot of people will say, and you gave me this weird look when I said it and went off on my tangent. What a lot of people will say is, well, but the mom wanted to let her show her that she did this when she was a mom, so she became a mom. So here, let me do this for you. But in reality, she didn't become a mom.
Right.
Just because mom thinks of it that way doesn't mean daughter thinks of it that way. And mom needs to think about it the way daughter thinks about it. It's too sensitive not to.
Right.
You know, it's like there's things that happen in our relationship that quite honestly, I could give two fucks about in the grand scheme of the world. But if you care about it, I'm not going to blindly just back you. I'll back you in public all the way. But I'll check it out. I figure I get it. I check into whatever it is that the problem is, what your viewpoint is on it, what the opposing viewpoint is on it. 99.99999% of the time, probably even greater than that, you're right. So there's nothing to discuss. And that little teeny tiny peanut of the time, after it's all over with, we discuss, like, what did you ever think about? Just like you just did to me. It's interesting the way our relationship works.
I just touched my eye with spicy pepper fingers.
Oh, no. Well,
I'm having a little bit of a meltdown over here.
Then maybe we should boogie so that you can deal with that.
Yeah, that might be a decent idea. On that particularly spicy note, good night, everyone.
Hasta la bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Nightly Rant.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Google Play.
If you didn't enjoy the show, please just ignore that previous request for a rating.
This has been a Yogi's Podcast Network production.